Hi there, I'm Tamara Gurney, President and CEO of Mission Valley Bank, and I'm here today with my Chief Credit Officer, Daniel Epstein, whose team has been responsible for funding over $60 million, I believe, in PPP loans since the program opened. Yes. So he's my expert. We're here today to hopefully answer your questions about the PPP program. I know the first round of funding has closed and the time period has been exhausted for the funds to have been distributed to the borrowers. So now attention is now turning to forgiveness. And we're getting a lot of questions from folks wondering how that process will work, and also some concerns as we see how slowly the phase 2 and further phases are opening up. So a lot of businesses are concerned that they will not be able to reopen within the 8 weeks that they have to spend those funds. So that's where most of the questions are coming from. I would just offer up two pieces of information that are not widely communicated by SBA. One is that any business that received $2 million or more in a PPP loan is going to have a full audit by the Treasury Department. We suspect that SBA will also be involved with Treasury in that audit, and we also believe that they will come down below $2 million and be looking at a lot of other loans, if not all loans. We're unsure. We're hearing all loans, but that would take a tremendous amount of resources. So definitely $2 million and over, and cautionary tale to those of you that are self-employed and sole proprietors. Those individuals and groups are going to be looked at very closely as well. The other piece of information is there is a safe harbor. It was extended from May 7th to May 14th, so we're coming up on it pretty quickly. And that safe harbor allows you to return your PPP loan money back to your lender by that date, by the 14th, without any repercussions from SBA. And what that means is, in your application, you were required to certify that your business was financially harmed by the COVID-19 pandemic. If your situation has changed, perhaps you had some information come to you where you have some other resources financially, or you're not finding that you are as financially harmed as you thought you were originally, you might want to consider returning the money. Also, we have individuals that know, business owners that know that their business is in phase 4, gyms, nail salons, hair salons, and we don't know yet. It's a moving target how quickly those will be able to reopen. So getting paycheck protection money to protect paychecks is going to be challenging, because you may be past your 8 weeks to spend it and still not be able to bring employees back. So just some upfront to start the dialogue information, and I would ask my colleague Daniel to offer in some of his insights from the conversations that he's had with a lot of our clients.
Thank you, Tamara. I'll also offer up, because apparently it's hot off the press, that LA County, their public health commissioner, if that's the right name, just came out and said that they might be extending the stay-at-home order until the end of July. So going back to the 8-week period that Tamara's talking about, if you're a restaurant or a health club or nail salon or one of those entities that might be in the later phase, and I say that from a state standpoint or even a regional standpoint, the 8-week period is not going to work now. So it just, sadly, if that happens, it's going to put more confusion out there, more uncertainty for the business owner, and we feel for that is greatly. With respect to the PPP program, there is still, as of the other day, about $100 billion left in round 2. Applications can be taken till June 30th. So the Safe Harbor Act that Tamara alluded to is very important. Also, hopefully there might be some questions today about the Main Street lending programs that the Federal Reserve is coming out with as well, so which is another vehicle for a business to borrow to try to get through this time period as well. Mm-hmm. So please, hopefully there are some questions. The LA County news should hopefully stimulate some debate or some discussion.
So we want to be proactive, and representing Mission Valley Bank, we pride ourselves on knowing our clients, knowing their business inside and out, how it operates, so we're in a better position to give them some advice and counsel as they navigate through this. Anyone that we're not that close with and don't really fully understand the business, it's a challenge. And so I have a disclaimer in terms of what some of what we're going to offer up today. But I had a recent conversation with an individual who had a small gym and received the money, which there was a pause for a sigh of relief that he got the funding. And a couple days later, there was the panic again because his employees are all on unemployment, making full salary, have no interest in coming back to work right now, even if, and if he did offer them a job and they turned it down, then they lose their unemployment. So it's a catch-22 for everyone, and he doesn't want to put them in that position, but he knows he can't spend this money on payroll. So there are a few things that you can potentially do. One, until this announcement that Daniel just referenced about extending the stay-at-home, my advice was hold on for 3 or 4 more weeks and see how this evolves, and if we get a little closer to an opening date, then you won't spend it over 8 weeks, but you'll spend, if you can bring people back, potentially spend it over 4 weeks.
Right.
And you can return the money. So you pay 1% interest on what you've had in hand for the period that you've had it, and what you don't spend, you can return back to your lender. So trying to alleviate some of the panic and anxiety that people have because of the uncertainty. SBA has been very slow in issuing guidance. There is nothing yet out on forgiveness and how it works. We are all using common sense to provide whatever information we can to our borrowers to help them navigate this.
Right, and I'll add to that, because Mission Valley Bank is an SBA preferred lender, we are on sometimes daily, but definitely weekly basis in contact with the SBA back in Washington, D.C. and their various offices. The forgiveness piece up until a few minutes ago, I don't want to beat the LA County thing to take to death, so to speak, but we've been coaching our customers on minimum of 75% on payroll, maximum of 25% on non-payroll costs. Number 3, bring your employees back over a period of time based on how your business is coming back, if it's been allowed to, if it's in one of these earlier phases. And then the last part, as Tamara alluded to also, was be prepared at the end of the 8-week period to possibly pay that money back if you don't need it anymore, or you realize it's not going to be forgiven. And as recently as right before I hopped in my car to drive over here, I was having this conversation with one of our customers who's slowly starting to be able to reopen, and we're talking about how do you bring back, do you bring back all your employees at once if you can? Do you bring them back over a period of time? And these are these questions, the types of questions that we're getting.
Yes, it's a lot of people are having that same concern. There are many that are faced with the challenge of not knowing when they can open, but certainly having a very strong sense that it's quite a ways out, especially now. And I want to say I had my first conversation today with one of our borrowers who made a decision that, after further thought, that in terms of the certification as to the extent of the financial harm that the pandemic has done to their business, they're not comfortable with their certification, and they've made the decision to return the funds under the safe harbor. So they asked us for the information, calculate the interest due, and give us the wire instructions so we can send the money back. And we're still, in a precarious situation because they don't know what next week or next month brings, but going to have to navigate that. So
Right.
it's a different time.
This is a tough part, and this is where having a bank like Mission Valley Bank, because of our expertise in the SBA space, the safe harbor Tamara was alluding to ends 2 days from now on Thursday, May 14th. However, there's still money available. So if a borrower came and applied for a loan, for PPP loan, then determined they really didn't need it, well, the safe harbor is gone. So we're trying to start those discussions. The safe harbor really needs to be extended, or the 8 weeks, the 8-week payback period for forgiveness possibly needs to be extended out. So.
Yeah, and just speaking again, because nobody's an expert on this. This is all new, and we're trying to navigate it along with you. And so again, a disclaimer, these are just our thoughts on what seems logical based on what we know. But in terms of forgiveness, what I would say to folks is, to the moment you get your money, develop some kind of a spreadsheet, a tracking log that identifies exactly where you intend to spend it. So if you have, you're going to have payroll, because that's the whole point of paycheck protection. So your payroll expenses, and you can stratify them with, the health care and the retirement and those types of things. And then also if you're spending those monies on utilities and rent, so keep an 8-week log, and every time you spend any money, please take a copy. If it's utilities, take a copy of that utility bill that specifically ties to the exact dollar amount of what you spent, and put those copies in a folder, whether it's electronic or paper, and keep them so that at the end of the 8 weeks, you're going to have a complete and thorough file ready to go to hand into the bank to review it for forgiveness. Don't start doing this on the after the 8 weeks, because you won't know where anything is. You won't have the utility bill, you won't have something to substantiate rent. And so this is, I think, a really important thing for you to think about doing.
Think we have our first phone call?
Oh, you want...
Hi there.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Doing well. Who are we speaking with?
This is Vicki.
Hi, Vicki. How are you?
I can't hear.
I'm fine. I know that Tamara and Daniel, they were talking about PPP loans, and I just wanted to thank them both for their diligence and their hard work and the hours they put in to help my company get one of these loans. And it's been a lifeline for us, and I just wanted them to know how incredibly appreciative we are of them and of Mission Valley Bank.
Thank you for saying that, Vicki. I thought I recognized your voice, so we appreciate that. We understand what it means to you. We understand what it means to the community and the products that your company puts out, too. So,
well, and we value the trust you've placed in us to help you guide you through the process. So thank you for your business.
Well, again, we just are so appreciative. And go ahead.
I was going to say, how's the spreadsheet working for you right now that we were just talking about?
You know what? I've been working on it, and I try and do it each week with each bill that comes in so that I don't get behind, so that I know exactly what I'm spending, every time I spend it.
Good.
And just trying to keep a very good track of all of the money that we're putting out, and making sure, Daniel, that I tick off the checklist of all the different things that I can include in it, and make sure I don't put the things in I can't. So I appreciate the spreadsheet, too.
You're welcome.
Well, good job. Keep it up.
Trying to.
Yeah, it'll pay dividends at the end. It'll go through much faster for you.
I don't want to have to backtrack and do this later.
No.
There was one thing I wanted to say from a conservative standpoint. The spreadsheet that we're talking about that tracks the payroll and the non-payroll, if you do something like that, you might want to make the adjustment that ties into the calculation to where an employee is only worth up to $100,000 in cash compensation. You might want to start keeping track of that for the 8-week period, for the payroll over the 8-week period, just from a conservative standpoint. Once again, the guidance isn't very clear, but since the calculation was based that way, we're advising our customers to keep that going forward with respect to the payroll costs. So if you have an employee that makes over $100,000 over that 8-week period, they're only going to be worth $100,000 on a pro rata basis. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you. I've been trying to do that too. So I'm fortunate I don't have, a tremendous amount of people that make that value, so I don't have to track that many. So, which makes it easier. But I thank you, and I just wanted you to know that. And thank you for the spreadsheet too, because it's working.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Is that it? We're off.
Dutton Plumbing, it's Eric.
It's Mother. Can you come over right away? It's urgent.
I'll be right there, Mom. Okay, I'm here. What's wrong?
It's been weeks since you had a haircut, so I want to give you a nice trim. Sit down.
Ooh, ow.
Gee, I can see myself in the back of your head, son.
Mom,
Oops.
What happened?
Never mind, it'll grow back. So, what's new at Dutton Plumbing, son?
Well, with so many people stuck at home, there's a lot of stuff getting stuck in their pipes. So, our $73 drain clearing is really keeping us busy.
Wait a minute. I bet the plumber's hair is getting shaggy, too. You tell them that Mom will cut their hair for just $73.
Isn't that a little high for a haircut, Mom?
Well, I'll toss in the manscaping for free.
Mom!
Mom's $73 drain clearing at DuttonPlumbing.com. Manscaping not included.
He broke records and piloted the F-18 Super Hornet in combat. Answering our nation's call, he served with honor. Then Mike Garcia returned home to his family, to a far worse California from where he grew up. Now, Garcia's next mission: cut taxes, clean up homelessness in our cities. With California on the brink, we need a fighter to answer the call once again. Mike Garcia for Congress.
I'm Mike Garcia, and I approve this message.
This is Phil Nordella from the KHTS radio show, Real Estate, It's That Simple. You know, I get asked every day, Phil, what has the virus done to the Santa Clarita real estate market? You know, the simple answer is nothing. If you go over the numbers when it comes to the closings that we had from February to April in 2019, we had 701. If you go over those same months, February 1st through April 28th, 2020, we had 769 closings. That's 68 more, almost a 10% increase. People are still listing and sales are still being made, only now we have to be very careful and abide by the CDC, CAR, as well as state and local guidelines when it comes to showing properties and when it comes to closing them as well. The second question people ask me is it a good time to buy or sell? Well, there's a lot that goes into that answer. I always like to think safety first, period. If you have older relatives living in the property, then you may want to wait. The CDC and CAR guidelines are good, but they're not foolproof. However, having said that, I think now is a perfect time for you to list, because I think within the next 6 months we are going to be inundated with listings. We're going to have cancel listings back on the market as well as hold listings back on the market, and we're going to also have those people that have been waiting all this time to actually list their house. They're going to be on the market as well. It's possible we may go from 400 listings to 800 listings in 4 months. So my personal opinion is, if you're thinking of listing, consider it soon. Try not to wait for the influx. The fewer homes on the market, the better the offers, and the more homes on the market means that the sellers have to compete for the buyers that are out there, and that usually drives the prices down. Not to mention, it may take you longer to sell. But on the flip side, if you're a buyer, hey, take advantage of these ridiculously low interest rates right now. So, if you're a buyer or a seller, right now is the time to jump. If you need help at all in navigating this crazy market, just call me at 661-312-3561. And don't forget to tune in to our radio show, Real Estate, It's That Simple, with my host, Rick Garcia, every Friday morning at 10 a.m. on KHTS. Stay safe out there.
I'm Christina DeBray, licensed marriage and family therapist, your Santa Clarita Valley trauma and grief specialist. The coronavirus and the new stay-at-home orders have changed our lives significantly. On behalf of KHTS 98.1 FM, AM 1220, hometownstation.com, here's a tip to help you when your children are having anxiety that feels out of control. Decorate a shoebox and name it the Worry Box. Throughout the day, as worries come up, have your children write each worry on a Post-it and put it in the box to review later. If they continue to bring it up, say, "Thank you for reminding me. Let's keep it in the worry box and talk about this during our worry time." Schedule 15 to 30 minutes sometime during the day to sit with your child and the box and spend time being worried together and offering comfort. Stay safe, stay at home, and let's flatten the curve. I'm Christina DeBray, licensed marriage and family therapist, your Santa Clarita Valley trauma and grief specialist.
98.1 FM and AM 1220, the community's choice.
Thank you, KHTS, for keeping me posted with the latest on COVID-19.
Go ahead.
So we had a question come in during the commercial break with respect to a individual that works in the film and entertainment and TV industry and is essentially a sole proprietor, independent contractor, asking about whether or not they're eligible, but more specifically, if they're eligible, can they use the money to pay themselves? The long and short answer is yes, you can. The program was, a separate part of the program was set up for sole proprietors and independent contractors. So if you have a Schedule C income, or you have 1099 income, there are calculations for both of those to provide you to provide an allowable number for you to be able to borrow the money and to effectively keep yourself paid, and or in the case of a Schedule C, even if you have some employees through that sole proprietorship, to be able to pay them as well too. So that
now, I'm able to use that money for any other things like equipment rental during this time, things I need to rent, other crew that I need to pay if I have a project or something like that?
So Jody, that's another good question. So going back to if you were listening earlier, there is a simple, what we call the 75-25 rule. A minimum of 75% of the funds of the loan amount needs to be used for payroll and payroll-related costs. A maximum of 25% can be used for non-payroll costs. But those non-payroll costs, in the case for you, they're defined. It's utilities, rent/leases, interest on mortgage obligations. Those are the forgivable uses. You can also use it for interest on other debt obligations. That is not forgivable. So if you were to go lease equipment, it would not be included as a forgivable use.
It would need to be
Okay,
equipment leased prior to February 15th.
Correct.
Right.
So if you went and got it right away, which I think you might have said, you would not be able to utilize it. And knowing what I know about your business, you don't exactly keep your equipment on hand. You would have to go enter into that lease right now.
Okay. So now I operate out of my home. I mean, I work on locations when I'm working, but my office and everything is here at home. So when we talk about mortgage and so forth, is that calculated at the same rate as office and home would be, or would that cover the mortgage and full utilities of my home, or would it have to be done like I do on my income tax form, which is percentage?
Percentage.
So it's another actually very good clarification that does not really exist in the guidance. When they refer to interest on a mortgage, they're referring basically to the owner-occupied real estate that the business might be operating in. It does not specify, does it count for a residential mortgage if you work out of your house? So that is I wish I could give you a better answer. It's one of those areas where, so I'll regress for a second. Over the weekend, I was reading something to stimulate discussion. The individual's opinion of this program was they are building the plane while it's flying. So, and this is, I say that with positiveness.
Sure.
But your question's very good.
Yeah. On your tax return, are you taking the home office deduction? Are you using a portion of space from your home and using that on your tax? Okay. Then I think you could make a good argument. And again, this is where I have to come in because I'm with Mission Valley Bank, and to protect my organization, this is my opinion as I understand what's come down in the guidance. That if you could make a good argument, if you're using and taking that deduction on your tax return, you could, in fact, roll that over into these PPP funds. And remember, it's mortgage interest only. You cannot make a principal payment on your mortgage. It's only interest.
Right.
And so take the same percentage as applies to the interest and use it in the PPP. If you use utilities, early on, utilities were just gas, electricity, and water. And then they finally came out a week or so ago, okay, internet and phone, because that's what we live by. And then there was another, I think, the awkward business transportation, which we still don't know what that means. Is that
correct.
Drive your car, put gas in your car? I mean, these are the things that make us all kind of crazy, because what's your interpretation, and I'll tell you mine, and 9 other people will have a different one. So you have to, just make your best efforts. We strongly encourage, again, sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed like yourself, be very careful with your records, because this is the area in past disasters that the SBA has seen fraud, and they are going to be looking closely for it now. At the beginning of this program, all you heard was, hey, it's free money. I'll take free money all day long. And as my friend here, Daniel, will say, free's not always free. So just be careful to keep good records, and communicate with your lender and ask questions. Does this look good? Would this pass muster, if you will, when I present it to you for forgiveness?
Good point. We are the paperwork piece. Some of our customers have said, wow, you are asking for more paperwork up front than some of your competitors are. Our response to that is, please trust us and rely upon the fact that Mission Valley Bank's an SBA preferred lender, And the other part of it is we're training you to keep the paperwork for the forgiveness piece. Because what we've asked for...
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be the person to... I mean, I've been audited before. It is not a pleasant experience.
No,
and
it's
even
not.
though we were found, not to have been at fault in anything, if we hadn't kept really, really good records, it would have been a far worse nightmare. So, yeah, I'm with you guys.
No, and
let's go into
right.
this and load it up on the front end.
Yeah, if you haven't seen some of our other broadcasts, Jody, I've spent a lot of time over the years. I've consulted to the SBA, a couple of their groups. I've seen their back office operations. I've watched how fast they can get an individual or entity's tax returns from the IRS. It's fast. But going back to your mortgage comment and what Tamara said, that's actually supportable. Earlier today, we were talking to what would be legally defined, could be legally defined as a political subdivision, a municipality of some way, shape, or form. Well, this one gets no state or federal funding and employs has 200 full-time employees and is entirely reliant upon the revenue that they generate from the businesses that they are allowed to run. Like I said, again, but if you look in the SBA ineligible categories, political subdivisions and government agencies are ineligible. But yet this one is a government agency probably. Board gets appointed by the governor, but yet they don't get any funding from the state or the federal government at all. They operate like a normal business. So,
have you got a moment for another call? Do you have other callers waiting? I don't want to hog airtime here if you do.
I don't know that I don't think we do right now, Jody, so air's yours.
Yeah, well, thanks. My buddy who had done this before had said that, that there's only obviously a certain amount of money. We've already had a second, infusion of cash for this. Don't know how much longer it's going to last. And he said that he understood that some banks, some lenders already were out of money. I don't know if that's true or if that's accurate, but he recommended to me, for example, my bank is Logix. And I didn't see anything on their website indicating that they were part of this program. So he said, go to PayPal because it's pretty streamlined there and they definitely still have funds available. So I did, and I have an account there already, and a business account, and it's pretty straightforward, but I'm not really dealing with people. I'm not like I'm dealing with you guys. I have no one to call. You just put in everything and then hope that somehow the magic happens and you get the loan. If for some reason that doesn't happen, can I apply again elsewhere, or do I assume at this point the SBA has looked at my documentation and said no thanks?
So I wouldn't want to make the assumption that they have or they haven't looked at it. You need to the first thing I would recommend is that you contact PayPal. Ask them if they have pulled an SBA loan number.
Yeah, and I only did this yesterday, by the way, so I haven't received anything from them yet.
So they should. The way it's going right now, if you were listening earlier, there's still about $100 billion left in round two. The ability to pull a loan number right now is pretty easy because there is not a lot of traffic going into the SBA portal. So I would follow up with them tomorrow. If not, I would give us a call in our Sun Valley office.
There are also other non-bank lenders where you would have more of an ability than with PayPal to interface with a human. And that might be Lendio is a big one out there that's doing a lot of PPP lending, and some of the CDCs. Those are groups that are related. They do 504, mostly 504 loans in the SBA program, but they've gotten involved, a number of them, in PPP, and several are very active in the LA basin. So there are a number of them. We'd be happy to give you some other names.
There is another, the CDC Small Business Finance out of San Diego might be a good fit for you as well, too.
Okay. Well, that's great stuff. Final question, I'm hoping, and thank you for the time, by the way. Hopefully this is useful to other people because there's a ton of people in my business who live out here in Santa Clarita,
Right.
I had not, like a lot of people, we had not done our 2019 taxes yet because that's, the time to do that has been extended into July. So I only had my 2018 tax return Schedule C and 1099s to work off of. Now my income from 2018 to 2019 was quite a bit different. I made a lot more money in 2019. Sadly, I have no way of proving that really. I don't guess because I don't have a Schedule C. I don't have anything except 1099s. So I just went ahead and went with the best documents that I had, which was 2018. So there isn't any way that I can pay myself more than what I made in 2019 as far as the numbers that I'm giving to the SBA, correct?
So another good question. I hope a lot of people are listening that might not be asking questions. So one area that the guidance is clear with sole props and independent contractors is taxes aren't due till 2019. They do expect to have you fill out a draft 2019 Schedule C. We realize
The
it's a
SBA
draft.
does?
That is part of the guidance to be able to start the calculation. That's the main basis for the calculation for independent contractors and sole props is the Schedule C. So go ahead and download the Schedule C from 2019 Schedule C from the IRS website. But then I will loop back around to a comment I made earlier. The fraud piece, all that lies on the borrower. So please fill it out as accurately as you possibly can, because it is very, very easy for them to cross-reference that document to what eventually will get fired with the IRS later on.
So you should have all of your 1099s from 2019 and basically just compile all of those, total that up, and you're going to end up with your Schedule C line 30, is it?
31.
31, and that's your net income. That's the number that you divide by 12 and multiply times 2.5 to get your loan amount.
Wouldn't that be my gross income, though, because all those 1099s, I don't have any of my deductions figured in yet, and I have quite a substantial amount of those.
So I think we have another phone call coming in, Jody, but you would need to recognize the expenses on to get to line 31 to get to the net income number.
Right.
So
Okay,
like
so we
I
got to
said, there's
pretty much get our taxes together for that.
you pretty much sort of do,
Yeah.
going back to what I said, even though it's a draft, you don't want to run the risk of it not matching what actually gets really matching or being close to what gets filed.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for your time, and thanks for the specificity. I appreciate it a lot.
You're welcome, Jody. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. Hello. Okay. Oh, just stare at the camera. Oh.
So that was a good question
Yeah.
with Jody with respect to the independent contractors and the sole props. The big takeaway there really is fill out your 2019 Schedule C. It is required. Your lender, if they are following the SBA guidelines, will ask for it.
Into the conference.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi, who's this?
my name is Brian.
Hi, Brian.
How are you?
We are great. How are you?
Very good, thank you. I just wanted to call in and thank Daniel and his team for all the great work they do. I was working with a very big bank who I won't name just because I don't think it's appropriate, and they had no idea what they were doing in relation to getting my PP loan done. And then I was introduced to Daniel and his team, and they professionally took over and assisted me through every step of the way, and I just wanted to call and let them know I was grateful.
What is it was Brian, you said? Thank you very much, Brian. We appreciate that. Appreciate
This
that.
is Brian.
Yeah. Well,
So-
good luck to you. And if you have any questions as we move towards the forgiveness piece, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
You too,
Thanks.
Brian.
You too.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully a lot of individuals out there, business owners, whether you're, a C Corp, S Corp, or you're sole proprietor, independent contractor, some of this, if you haven't called in, that some of this has been helpful and answered your questions. This has been pretty much the focus of the last week, the concern about transitioning after receiving funding. How do we spend the money over the 8-week period? Know that your lenders like Mission Valley Bank are advocating for you with the SBA. We are working hard trying to get them to not only issue the guidance on forgiveness so that we can relieve some of the anxiety everyone is feeling, but we're also trying to get them to extend that 8-week period. If they're, we feel like if they're going to extend the stay-at-home requirements, that the number of businesses that will be able to get back open, even on a partial abbreviated basis, is going to be reduced significantly, which means you can't make payroll, you can't pay people because they'll be on unemployment. So if they can extend it another 4 to 8 weeks, we think that will really alleviate some stress that all of you are feeling. And that's what we're doing in DC with our banking agencies that are meeting in DC with the SBA. And so we're working hard to make that happen. And if we get some good news, we'll share it as soon as we know.
Absolutely. And I think we have another call coming in. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi.
Hi there.
Who do we have the
Hello,
pleasure
hi.
of speaking with?
My name is Gail.
Hi, Gail.
Hi, Gail.
And how you doing? I just wanted to call in and also echo the last caller and say, thank you for all of the help in getting the PPP loan. I was also working with another bank, and they made it very, very difficult. And Tamara and Daniel, they just really, really helped me out and made it streamlined and no problems at all.
Well, we were happy to do it, Gail, and we hope this really helps you keep that store open, because I know it was critically important.
Absolutely.
It did. Thank you. We were able to pay our, employees, last week, and that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Wanted to keep on paying them, the people who help us. So thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. Thanks for calling in, because I think it's one of the things, it's important to me, it's part of who we are at Mission Valley Bank, that we want to reach out and let you know every step of the way where we're at. And that's what I heard from people like you and others who were waiting and waiting for a large bank to get back to them, and they never heard anything. And then we put in and we got an SBA loan number for you. And so, the stress and the anxiety that everyone's feeling, we think it's important to try to alleviate that along the way, and that's done through communication. So appreciate the call.
And I appreciate you helping me with that. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
These are not Tamara and I's. This is not our normal voices. This is what happens after you've been talking for 12 hours a day for a month and a half. So
I get it.
And that's what a community bank like Mission Valley Bank is here for.
Okay, thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you, Gail. So going back to Tamara's last comment about the extension of the program, one of the things that was made clear out of the gate is that you could only have one PPP loan. But if you are not a business that has been able to reopen and you repay the money, then you're not eligible again, but then you might need it another month or two down the road. So those are the things that we're working on, that we're in communication with the SBA on.
And so all the feedback that we get from business owners about what their concerns are, what they need in this program is helpful, because we're feeding that to Washington, to Treasury, and to SBA to help them understand and make better decisions, and hopefully make them more quickly, because it's really important for people's stress levels, I think, to at least have some sense of what tomorrow brings.
All right. Good comment.
We good?
Town Cleaners on Soledad is offering free dry cleaning for all first responders and medical personnel. Free pickup and delivery is also available. Call Mo at 250-1542. 250-1542. Town Cleaners on Soledad. As the stay-at-home order continues, Burger King is committed to following state and federal safety guidelines when it comes to serving you, the customer. Although in-restaurant dining has closed, pickup and delivery service continues. The current hours are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. You can mobile order through the BK app for pickup, or you can use any of the delivery services like DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Postmates. Burger King on Lyons at the 5 Freeway, now with service at 2 drive-through windows.
You see so much when you look at your child. A creative spirit that surprises you every day. Curiosity that develops into exploring unique passions. A little leader growing every day to discover who they are, what they love, and how they can make their mark on the world. At SCVI, we see those same amazing things. Our tuition-free K-12 charter school gives your child boundless opportunities to think critically and imagine freely, with a customized learning program built around each individual student. As iLead's founding school, SCVI combines an immersive approach to traditional subject learning with extracurricular activities including STEAM, robotics, theater, music, and sports. SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in Santa Clarita, with a 10-year proven track record of graduates excelling at top universities. And we're in your backyard, just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley in Castaic. For enrollment information or to learn more about our program, including homeschool options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org. iLead Schools, free to think, inspired to lead.
Thank you, KHTS, for keeping me posted with the latest on COVID-19.
It's what we do. 98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Welcome back. We want to thank KHTS and the Goldmans for allowing us Tamara and Mission Valley Bank and myself, to come back on the air again today. So big shout out to them, and our prayers are with you, Carl. So hopefully you get better soon.
Okay.
Do we have any other phone calls right now? So one of the other things that would be that's good to know is we are pushing for clarity on the forgiveness piece. Going back to what we said earlier, a lot of our phone calls now are how do I spend the money? When does the time count? When does the calculation? When does the 8-week time frame start? Things like that. We have been pushing the SBA, and going back to what we've been saying earlier, I'm going to say pushing, making recommendations, because part of the confusion at the front end of the program was how to define payroll costs, and that confusion was exacerbated by the fact that they were trying to define a mathematical equation with English. And so some of our recommendations that we've been making to them is, if you do come out and provide more guidance on forgiveness, which they said they're going to do, try to put it in a math equation. And they've navigated in that way with the independent contractors and the sole proprietors' calculations for an eligible loan amount as well. But it needs to carry back through for the corporations as well too, on how to go about calculating the forgiveness piece.
Yeah, I think I would just go back and re-emphasize we've only got a couple more days for a safe harbor, and we, just from the paperwork that we've put through processing for a PPP loan, we know that there are some businesses that we are questioning whether they are truly in need of the amount of money that they put in for. And so you can give so much guidance, and at the end of the day, I don't want to stand in the way of someone. If they can substantiate it, then, I want to get that loan made to them. And so we're really gearing up for the back end in terms of forgiveness, to sit down with them individually and walk through exactly what will work and what won't, and hopefully we can do that with guidance that comes out from SBA. Until then, we're all we're all guessing, and we're making our best efforts at guessing correctly, but nobody wants to do that when it comes to people's livelihoods.
Right.
So again, I just can't emphasize enough that the whole attitude in the beginning with some people, not everyone, because most people were truly financially devastated and really need this, which is why it was put out there. But there were some that were not as harmed, and so we just encourage you to take a look inward and really sort through and look at your operations and take advantage of the safe harbor if it makes sense. Those of you who are concerned about getting open in the next 4 to 8 weeks, or maybe it will be a little longer, and you're concerned, I still, again, it's my personal opinion, not Mission Valley Bank, but I believe that there's time to hold on for 3 or 4 weeks to see how this lays out, and start to spend some of the money on your payroll if you are in fact, after that period of time, able to start some of your operations. Right. And then just say, at the end of the day, pay the money back. If you can't spend it on allowable expenditures, turn around, we'll calculate the 1% interest and pay the money back to the bank. The SBA is looking for people who are trying to defraud, not people who innocently make mistakes because they aren't given clear and concise information about what to do and how to do it. So I can't stress that enough for all of you.
And to further emphasize that point, there have already been a couple cases back east where the Department of Justice has filed against companies for frauding the program. So they are already walking the walk, following up their talk with actions. So it's very front and center, that part of the program.
Yeah, I think we saw some very large, educational institutions and large restaurant chains that took millions of dollars, and I think more so from public outcry, they decided to do the right thing and return it. But there are some serious teeth in the SBA regulations surrounding this program, and they involve considerable monetary penalties as well as jail time. So if those small number of people out there who were playing games with it, there will be a price to pay. But for the rest of you who are just legitimate small business owners that are struggling through one of the most horrific events we've experienced in our lifetimes, you're doing the best you can, and your lender should be there shoulder to shoulder with you, helping answer questions and helping you navigate through this process. And even if you make a mistake, everybody makes mistakes. We're human, and that's not going to be penalized. Just doing the right thing, and that's where we all need to be.
And this is where having, going back to what Brian said, not going to name the big banks, but having a bank like Mission Valley Bank walking alongside you at a time like this, you're going to get a live voice on the line, always. You're going to get our knowledge of the SBA program, have that behind you as well. We're not, so it's a very good point, Tamara. Any last questions, phone calls?
Nope. Everybody's got this figured out. I hope they do. I mean, we really do. We want to see business come back. And we share, even though as a bank, we're one of those that was required to remain open to serve our constituency. And we've had our own challenges with our staff, levels of anxiety, or they're working an 8-hour day remotely from home and they're playing school teacher and babysitter and mom at the same time. So it's very difficult. We know that everyone is affected in differing ways, but also a lot of similarities. And so we want to help everyone get through this time as best we can. And we know that having been in this situation now for over 8 weeks, people are starting to get a little bit antsy. And I know we're seeing more traffic on the road. Everybody was enjoying the freeway's non-existent traffic, and now it's starting to pick back up again. So I think some of us are getting out and enjoying some warm weather, maybe navigating up the coast to see some beautiful scenery. But it's not over yet. So we just all need to be thoughtful, we have our freedoms, and we can do pretty much whatever we want as long as it doesn't infringe on someone else's rights. And that's where we need to be cautious and careful in where we step, because while you may not feel the need to wear facial covering, those of you, people around you don't know, they may be fearful. They don't know if you've been exposed to someone. So again, it's easy to get caught up in it's very highly emotional right now, and it's easy to get caught up, but we just need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and we'll get through it.
Have grace.
Yes.
This is a great time to emphasize the ability to have grace on your fellow human beings.
So as Daniel said, the second round of Paycheck Protection is moving a little bit slower than the first round. There's still about $100 billion with a B left to be parsed out to small businesses. And some of you may have been waiting because you had maybe some foresight that this would be protracted, and you didn't want to apply for the money until you got closer to where you felt your business might get open. So good for you. We're still getting applications in, and so some of those folks might not be stressing out over the fact that they aren't going to be able to spend the money because their businesses are getting partially opened right now.
Yeah.
So everyone, like we said, everyone's different.
There was, Tamara alluded to it earlier, there was a mad rush because of the press and the way the government put the program out to try to get money in round one. But as we've said on some of our other broadcasts, that didn't fit everybody's business model, and especially with the uncertainty, we advised some of our customers, we knew pretty early on there'd be a second round, to try to wait as long as possible to try to take some of that uncertainty out of the picture. So, and it's still there. This program, like I said, if there's $100 billion left, it goes through the end of June. There's still some time. If you haven't borrowed yet, if you haven't applied, time's on. You might be in a better position right now to be able to take advantage of the program.
And there are other programs. We haven't talked a lot about them today, and I know we're getting right to the end of the broadcast here, but the emergency disaster loan is still out there, and so if you're waiting for PPP, you can bridge the gap with the EIDL program, and that's helpful to many businesses as well.
And if you're a larger company, you should look into the Federal Reserve. Out of Boston, they have what's called the Main Street lending programs. There's about 3 or 4 loan products in there for the larger middle market companies. There's the larger, smaller companies that do maybe $15 million a year minimum in revenue.
Yes. Yeah. So there are a number of programs. You can reach out online to local economic development corps and CDCs, and to your bankers. But we just want to say again, we appreciate KHTS giving us the opportunity to talk to you and to answer some of your questions, because that's really important to us to make sure that we answer as much as we can and alleviate the concerns that you have.
Thank you all.
Thank you.